so that, even though we're busy and we jump into things, if you actually just spend a couple of minutes focusing on that intention before you do that activity, it changes the whole activity for you.
Hello, 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 and welcome to Unleashed Voices. And today you're tuning into the Soulpreneurs Series, and I'm so grateful to have Nimi with us. Hi, Nimi.
Hi, Harri.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm really good. Thank you. Thank you so much. Can we just share with everyone what's been going on between us?
Now, of course we can. Please do.
This is version 3 of
Yes.
of our video, because there's been someone hanging around maybe, who's not been allowing us to record.
Yes.
So fingers crossed today goes all well. Let's see what happens, right? So Nimi, share with me and tell the viewers who you are, what you do, why you do it.
Okay, so I'm Nimi Dhillon. I run a business called Infinite Essence Nimi. I'm a spiritual and mindset mentor, psychic medium, and I've recently completed my theta healing as well. So I guess I started this business a couple of years ago, so it's quite a young business, but it's very much aimed at leading women to their inner wisdom. So we all have this intuition, this quiet mind, this kind of quiet voice within us that kind of is always leading us in the right direction. And, I love to support women to really kind of quieten themselves, to go introspective, find their intuition, and know that that's their kind of guiding light.
And explain, how do you actually do that?
So I offer psychic readings, tarot card readings, and then also spiritual guidance. And, a lot of the times women come to me with lots of questions about their future, about what's going on, and this can be related to money, relationships, their careers, their jobs, their family circumstances. And I really try and guide them back to their intuition, because actually all the answers to everything that we have lies within us. So I use my intuition. I also call on my spirit guides and angels to channel messages and guidance, which I then share with my clients, but really with the aim for them to also connect to their inner wisdom and be able to guide themselves also.
But you said that this is a new business. How did this all come about?
So I was never spiritual like this at all. Um, I'm probably the least spiritual within my immediate family. And so my spiritual journey only started about 7 years ago. And this was at a time when I lost my dad in the physical realm. And he was my rock, he was my everything. And I guess when I lost him, that's when I stopped living in the 3D world and really started asking some deep questions about, why am I here? What am I doing? What's my purpose? Why have I been put on this earth? So some really kind of deep introspective questions that then started my spiritual journey. And also with the aim of really, wanting to give back to all the women around me. I faced some really difficult times with the grief that I had, and I still go through that now even. But this is the reason why I sort of turned my pain into purpose, and really want to kind of support as many women as I can through the challenges that they may face in later life.
And we always find that we have to, I love what you said about the pain to purpose. I always find that we have, like many of the soul seekers in UWW, we've had to go through some sort of pain, trauma, challenge to find that spiritual path. And
Mm.
that spiritual path looks different for everyone. But you had to go through grief by losing your dad in order to find this journey that you're on. Tell me a little bit more about how that all started. It can't have been that as soon as your dad's passed to a different realm that all of a sudden you're thinking, oh, let me do a card reading.
Mm.
How did that sort of develop?
No, it's been a very slow journey in some respects. So when I lost my dad in the physical realm, I thought that I had lost everything. His love, his guidance, his protection. He was very much my rock, and I went to him for everything. And, when he passed away to the other side, that's when I thought I'd lost all of this. And, I went through some really dark times. And someone suggested to me to do yoga because they felt that that may be a way of me getting out of my head and really, kind of dropping into my body and, focusing on something that's more mindful in the present moment. I was really fortunate because the yoga teacher that I found was herself spiritual, and she used to do sort of 5-minute meditations at the beginning and at the end of each of the sessions. And what I found is attending those sessions on a weekly basis, I started to see the benefits off the mat. So I was starting to sleep better. It's not that those thoughts went away completely, because as we know, this is not how it works, but I certainly was able to quieten my mind at times. And, I started seeing benefits also in my corporate life as well, of being able to face challenges better, being able to manage deadlines and the pressures that come with corporate life. So, because I saw those benefits, I knew that there was something more that I wanted to explore in this area. And that's when I started my own meditation practice at home. Initially with guided meditation, so just finding YouTube videos,
Yes.
listening to those, and eventually then started exploring silent meditation, which became and has always been from then on in my daily practice. Um, and you know, it was before one of those meditations that, I'd been told about setting intentions and the power of setting powerful intentions before meditation. And one of those days I decided that let me set the intention that I connect with my dad's soul on the other side. And sure enough, when I did this silent, deep meditation, I connected with my dad's soul. So that was really the sort of beginnings of things. And as I mentioned, my whole family are very spiritual. So the channeled guidance that I received from my father that day, I shared with my family. And I guess in some ways that was the beginning of my psychic abilities.
Did that scare you?
Not at all. Not in the slightest, no. Um, it was probably one of the most comforting feelings that I received to, and the reason being is that what I realized in time is that actually none of the love is gone from my dad, or the guidance or the protection or any of that. It's just in a different form.
Yeah. You
And
can't
actually, if you
physically
can,
see it.
yeah, absolutely. So just because I don't see him in the physical realm and I can't have a normal human to human conversation with him, I can still connect to him in the spiritual realm and receive everything that I received before he passed on.
You mentioned that you connected with your dad through silent meditation. I often meet a lot of the soul seekers in UWW who don't know how to start meditating.
Mm.
And especially with silent meditation, it's a lot harder than just listening
Yes.
to something on YouTube. How did you start that, and what advice could you give to
Mm.
a soul seeker wanting to try?
Yeah. The first thing I'd say is never compare your meditation to anyone else's. My meditation can look like a silent meditation for 10, 15 minutes, just sitting there observing my thoughts. And your meditation could look like having a nice coffee in your hands,
Yeah.
and feeling that warmth from the cup and tasting that coffee and feeling very grounded from it. So that's the first thing I'd say is never put pressure on yourself in terms of what type of meditation you can do. The whole aim of meditation is to just bring yourself into the present moment. Okay, it's an opportunity for you not to focus on what's happened to you in the past or indeed worry about what's going on in the future, but to just tune into the present moment. So that can also look like going for a walk in nature, as an example. But I would say for silent meditation, one of the things that really helped me was not to shut down those thoughts, right? So,
Which
for
we
example,
naturally would think to do.
exactly, but it's the total opposite. It's actually observing those thoughts, but not giving them attention. Okay, so a practical way that I do it, and I still do this even to this day now, is I will imagine clouds in the sky. And every time I think of a thought, for example, like, what am I going to make for dinner tonight? I will acknowledge that thought and then I will just pop it on a cloud, which will then pass. And I'll say, I'll come back to you later. After my meditation, I will come back to this thought and I will give it the due attention that it deserves. But for now, I will just let it pass. And that's how I do it. So yeah, that's one tip I could suggest to women that want to try this type of meditation.
Because
But
I loved how you said about meditating using coffee, just drinking a cup of coffee and being in that present moment. Because most people see meditation as I've got to sit there in silence, I've got to shut my eyes, I've got to listen to my breathing. And yes, that is a form of meditation, but actually, you've brought a new context to this by actually being in the present moment. I see cooking as a meditation. Some people see swimming as doing a form of meditation because they are silent and they are just being present with each stroke that they're taking, you know.
absolutely. And, it's just coming back to that intention, like I said, right? You can do your cooking and do it really speedily and like just be in a rush and just wanting to jump onto the next thing, or you can actually stir the pot and just, use all your senses, like smell the curry that you're making, use your hands, taste it even, So yeah, it can look very different for different people.
And it's also true what you said that meditation isn't the same for everyone.
Mm,
And just starting by 5 minutes of intentional thought, like just being in the present moment, just intentionally, is a great start, right?
absolutely, exactly. And that's, this is, the beauty of meditation is once you start doing this, it's almost like building a muscle. So the
It's like
more and
going to a
more you,
gym, yeah,
yeah,
doing a workout.
exactly. That's it. So the more and more you practice this, you're going to find it gets easier and easier, and you'll be more and more in the flow of it. So I'd say also just keep persevering, you know. If it doesn't quite work for you one day, that's okay. Just try again the next day.
And there's no right or wrong of doing it.
No, there isn't. And that's the beauty of it, there is no right or wrong.
And do you feel like one of the conversations I had with another soulpreneur, we started talking about self-love, and a few of the techniques of self-love was also the same as meditation, being in the present moment. If you are going for a walk,
Yes.
listen to the sound of your footsteps and be present with walking. It's very easy for us to just put our headphones in, listen to some music, or listen to an audible or something like that. But actually being silent and being present, listening to the birds, listening to us, the sound of our feet, it's being present. Would we now see that because here I am thinking about going for a walk, is that self love or is that meditation? Could it
I'd
be
say
both?
it's both probably, right? Yeah, and I'd say definitely that meditation is a form of self-love, because it's allowing you to be present with your thoughts, to observe what's going on, to really, drop into your body and sense, what is your body telling you today? Is it asking for rest, or is it wanting to be creative, or is it looking for, more of the masculine energy of actually getting tasks done? So the more and more you go introspective, it kind of goes back to the first point I made about all the answers lie within you, right? So when you silence your mind in this way, you can find answers to anything that you're looking for and really be guided by this.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And I love how the direction of this whole conversation has ended up on meditation and looking at meditation like it's self love, because I think it's
Yes.
really important. Most women, especially the South Asian ones, when you speak about self love, they go, I don't have time for that. I think we overcomplicate the whole context of what society sees as self love. It's
Yes, exactly. And
just
I'm just going
really
to give you
interesting.
an example of something
Yeah.
that it kind of dawned on me just a couple of weeks ago is like I bought so many face masks, suddenly buying lots of face masks, and then I realized that actually it's not because I need to put the face mask on me, but actually when I put this face mask on me, it gives me 5 minutes of silence and contemplation, and that's what I'm craving.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times you say about self-love of like, okay, that doesn't necessarily mean going to the spa or doing these things or doing your nails or whatever, but actually it's honoring your mind, your body, your soul, and giving it the space it rightly deserves to guide you.
Yeah. With intention.
Yes.
I think that's the most important thing, because women, we're busy, which means our minds are busy, and we don't have that silent time to, with intention, that actually I'm going to have 5 minutes of silence. And that is a really good way of just being able to tune in with what's going on with our bodies, because we are very quick with people pleasing, doing everything for everyone else, our bosses, our children, our partners, our parents, in-laws, pets. We're very quick to give to everyone else, but actually we don't give enough to ourselves.
Absolutely. And, just continuing on that intention, when you set an intention before you do any activity, it's a sacred pause, and it's a chance for you to reflect on what the purpose is for that action that you're about to take. And
Yeah.
also allows you to tune into the energy of that particular action. So that, even though we're busy and we jump into things, if you actually just spend a couple of minutes focusing on that intention before you do that activity, it changes the whole activity for you.
Yeah, I love that, but it's remembering to do that. I think that's the tricky part. We're very quick to just quickly go from here, there, and everywhere, jump from one task. We multitask,
Yes.
especially in my work situation. I've got like two monitors, and I've got 20 tabs up here and 20 tabs up there. But actually, when it's trying to remember to set an intention of some sort, that actually I want to achieve this, or I need an answer for this,
Yes.
or some guidance on this.
Exactly.
Um, but I suppose it's the same as what you said about, it's like going to the gym. It's like you've got to train and build the muscle. It's practice.
Yes, exactly. And then soon enough, you'll find that it just comes naturally to you. You
Yeah.
don't have to think too hard about it when it becomes a habit.
When you're doing your sessions with clients, how do you step into that? I don't know, is mode the right word, or step into that phase where you can connect to spirit?
Mm.
And going on from that is, when you've finished with that client, is how do you ground and come back to like reality again?
Yeah. So I have opening and closing rituals that I do. Um, so with the opening rituals, again, it's, as we've spoken before, it's about setting that intention. So, I set the right frequency for that particular session. I'm really mindful for setting what intention I have for that particular client, depending on what their needs may be at that point in time. And I myself have to be very grounded as well. So one of the things I love doing is just going out in nature for, just a quick walk. And I do that barefooted when the weather's nice. So I love being out in nature to just kind of get myself into that right frequency and energy. So those are some of the things that I just do as kind of preparation. And then in terms of closing, during the sessions, a lot of my sessions tend to be quite heavy, and there
I can
is a lot of
imagine.
exchange of energies. So I always make sure that when I close, I'm kind of, cord cutting and cutting those energies with myself
Yes.
and my client. But also then if I've connected to any soul on the other side, then I want to make sure that I connect, I can kind of disconnect appropriately as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's certain rituals and things that I do to kind of just set myself up in that way.
Have you had any unusual experiences with spirit?
Um, yeah, quite a few.
Would you
Um,
like to share any? I'm quite curious and fascinated.
yeah, I think I'd say at the beginning, because I haven't been taught to be a psychic. I've not
Of
attended a
course.
single course, so this has just kind of come to me as opposed to me learning, if that makes sense. And I guess in the initial stages, I used to see a lot of souls from the other side quite often. So there was once a time when I sat with my family in a restaurant and I saw one of the waiters' mother sort of standing behind him.
Wow.
So that was just a really odd situation because we're sat there having dinner
Yeah.
in an Italian restaurant and then this happens. So yeah, there's been a few times when I've had to kind of obviously then navigate and make sure that I do just close myself off from these things, particularly when I'm outside in public.
Yeah.
Um,
Did you tell the waiter?
I never did actually, and that's probably one of my regrets because it was so new for me at the time. Um, and I just didn't know how they would react to this. Since then, I've learned a lot in the sense that if there's ever a soul on the other side that's channeling guidance to me, it's my responsibility to share that. How the other person takes it, whether they believe it or not, or if they, what they choose to do with that information is obviously entirely up to them. But, I've learned through time that I am that messenger, and so I have to pass on the message in that sense. Um, Other times, I've had some really beautiful sessions with a lady that lost her husband, and three of her daughters um, asked if they could also attend this session with me.
Okay.
So it was a mother and three daughters, and I was able to kind of then share messages from their dad to each of them as well as the mother, and I think that was a really beautiful container for me because obviously having four people on there and being able to share those beautiful messages that came through from the husband and the dad was really nice, but also then mm, reminded me of me and my sisters and my mum as well.
Oh,
So
yeah, of course.
that was really special. Yeah.
Have you ever had any unusual requests from clients?
I was asked to connect with a child, which is something that's quite rare. Um, but I've had that in the past, and that's been a really interesting um, sort of session as well that I've had with a mother who lost a child at a very young age.
Okay.
But again, just really special and unique in its own way.
And it must make you feel so like that love because you're able to help and guide that person with
Yes.
any guidance coming from spirit?
Yeah. I feel so humble to be able to do
Yeah,
this work, and I feel so privileged to be chosen as a messenger.
yeah.
Um, and I really find this work is so kind of divine, and I honor and respect it so much. And I'm just grateful every day to be able to do this. If, at times it's to just give comfort to someone who's lost their loved one, or to give some sort of closure if they've got any kind of specific questions, or whatever the reason is, I'm always in gratitude for being able to be that bridge.
But you also have a corporate job as well, don't you?
Yes, I do.
How do you manage both?
So I think for me, because my kids are grown older, and one is at university and another one's about to go to university, I'm really fortunate that I've, managed to find time in the evenings to be able to do these types of things. And, as the nest gets empty, um, it's also just kind of driven me to this purpose even more, because, you know, otherwise I'm just going to end up spending my time watching Netflix or whatever else, so
This is making you feel useful.
exactly, exactly. So yeah, I think it's just divine timing as well, the way things have worked out, which have, come at a time when I'm able to actually sacrifice this much time on another business. And I know that's not possible for all women, because, some women have young children, and it's really difficult to be able to juggle so much. I just, I'm very fortunate in that way.
So one of the questions I actually asked one of the other soulpreneurs who also has a job is the identity you have in your corporate world compared
Mm,
to the identity you have in the business side of things.
mm.
Does that identity look completely different for you, or is there a way that it's been merged?
Starting to merge slowly, I'd
Okay.
say. Um, I would really love for it to all just be one, you know, in that sense. But um, it's been a journey, I'd say. Definitely been a journey. Before, I used to keep it very, very separate.
Yeah.
Now, actually, I even start to use my intuition in the corporate environment a lot more as well, and more in tune with that, and really starting to kind of, be authentic in every aspect of my life.
And I
So yeah.
completely get that it can take time
Mm,
because it's your it's almost like you're a different person there compared to who you are the face of in the corporate side of things. And
yes.
then trying to kind of bring that version of you over to the corporate world can be quite tough. And do you
Yes.
have like judgment from like the work colleagues if they were to know of what you do? What's
I
their
think
reactions?
I probably would do. Yeah, I probably would do. But I mean, you know, that shouldn't really kind of stop me from showing up
No.
authentically, because, as we know, even outside of the corporate world, there are skeptics or people that don't quite understand what I do. So, I've had I've had a friend of mine, not a close friend, but a friend of mine, that sort of asked me, so do you believe in psychics? And I'm like thinking, well, I'm one of them, so I better believe myself. Yeah. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting, right? And over time, I've come to accept that I'm not going to be everybody's cup of tea. That's not what I'm here for. So those that, resonate with what I do and are open to receiving the guidance that I provide will come to me. And those that don't, that's okay also. That's good.
Let's talk about family.
Mm.
Being South Asian, knowing what our cultural conditioning is like, society in our culture, what reactions have you had from family members? I mean, you mentioned that your family is spiritual anyway, but like I'm
Mm.
talking about outsiders, in laws. Um, what kind of
Yeah,
reactions have you had there?
Yeah, so like I said, immediate family's been a breeze because obviously they're all so spiritual. And I mean, I used to say to my sisters, don't go to these psychics and these tarot card readers. And then, like, I've become one of them. So, so yeah, very, very supportive immediate family. Outside of that, no one's kind of directly said anything to me as such, but I'm pretty sure there's judgment there in terms of what I'm doing, coming especially from a corporate background as well, and people wondering, well, why do you also need to do this? You know,
Because they
uh,
think it's about money.
yeah, but potentially, exactly. So yeah,
You've got a job. Is that kind of mindset. But you've got a job. Why do you need to do another job?
exactly. It's that, isn't it? It's like, how come you're doing this now? So yeah, definitely, I'm sure there's a lot of judgment out there. I'm just really grateful to have immediate family that kind of fully support me.
So you mentioned two children. One's at uni, one's on the way to uni. So 7 years ago, when you went through the grief process and then went on the journey of the meditation and taking it down to hearing or getting messages from the spirit
Mm,
realm,
mm.
how did that impact your children? Did it impact
They,
your children?
they've been really supportive as well. I guess my older one is probably less interested in some ways. I think he just lets mum do her thing. He knows that like that's what she does and kind of lets me get on with it. And the younger one is more interested and is always asking me lots of questions about how things work. And yes, I've got a bit of a balance there between the two. But generally, again, both very, very supportive of what I do, especially because they can see the benefit that it brings to the women that I serve. And they're really proud of me, which is
Oh,
nice. Yeah, I think they look up to me and say, okay, that's a really great thing that you're doing, particularly because you also already have a full-time job. So it's not something that you have to do, but it's something that you really want to do. So yeah, it's
do you have any advice for any fellow soulpreneurs who may be navigating the same journey as you, where they're in a full time job and they're trying to navigate a business on the side as well? Do you have any advice?
I would just say that start doing things, right? Don't hesitate, don't wait, don't seek permission. You can start messy and kind of,
I like
work
that. Start
things.
messy. I
Yeah,
like
just
that.
start messy and then work things as you kind of continue, right? Especially if you have an inner calling like what I did. I really resisted it for quite some time. Um, and, then certain events happened which then kind of made me realize that no, this is what I need, this is what I should be doing. So I would just say follow your intuition, be really guided by that, and just start giving things a go. Life is too short.
It
We're
is
here for such a short space of time, and if you can support other humans in your life, then why wouldn't you?
100%. That resonates with me a lot, especially because, like, with UWW, there's so many women, whether they're soul seeking or soul led business owners, and it's just being able to connect them with someone who can guide them. I'm not necessarily the one guiding them, but I'm the connector where I can connect
Yes.
them to someone who might be on the same journey as them, or is able, like for yourself, connect you to a soul seeker who, because you can guide them on their journey.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And when I was sort of hesitating to do this kind of work, um, it was during a time when I was certifying for spiritual life coaching,
Okay.
and I got very close to one of the colleagues, and we used to do kind of practice sessions on each other.
Okay.
And I became really close to her because every week in, week out for 6 months, we'd like, practice together. And then one day I just opened up to her and I said, look, this is what I did. I connected with my dad on the other side like this. And she said, well, you're a psychic then. And I couldn't even say the word psychic. And I was like, I was like, I don't know, maybe I am. And she was like, well, you definitely are. And then she gave me a safe space to just practice on her
Wow.
in one of the sessions. So we kind of went off the syllabus, and decided to do this kind of session with her in a very safe space. And she said, look, if it all goes belly up, it's okay, like it's
Yeah.
just you and me. And during that session, I connected with her granddad who'd passed on the other side, and I channeled messages to her. And she was so taken aback by that session that at the end of it, she just said to me, you're really selfish. She
Wow.
said, you're just being a really selfish person if you don't share, you know, these gifts with other women, because there's so many women out there that could do with this type of guidance. And I think for me, that's when the penny dropped, and I just thought,
You
yeah,
needed to hear that, didn't you?
I needed to hear it, and everything changed after that. I just accepted that this is my path.
It's given me shivers. Wow. And sometimes, like, we see the word selfish as like, oh, that's a nasty word and it's a horrible word, but actually, you needed that from
Yes,
her.
yes, exactly.
And what happened next? Did you go down a route of learning more about it?
So I then was certified for spiritual life coaching, but I've never actually taken any courses for psychic mediumship. That's something that's just naturally come to me. But what I have done is, since then connected with lots of other psychics who have been able to guide me. Because, like I said, I was seeing souls in restaurants and
Restaurants.
actually even in my office, in my corporate career. So, I really needed to understand some of these rituals of grounding and protecting my energy. So I was really fortunate enough to kind of, be connected to other more experienced psychics who have guided me along the way.
Yeah. You mentioned protection, protecting your energy. How do you do that?
So for me, a lot of it is in the rituals that I do. So
Okay.
there's cord cutting exercises that I do at the end of each of the sessions that I have. And this allows me to then just disconnect to the energy of the client, and then call back anything that is rightly mine, but also for me to give back to the client what is rightfully theirs. So, just kind of do that exercise.
Grounding, apart from walking barefoot on the grass, is there anything else that you would advise can be a really good technique for grounding?
Yeah, I think for me, it's just, any way that you can kind of be in the present moment, right? So, like what we spoke about, even just drinking a coffee, but doing it
Yeah,
mindfully can really ground you. So, anything that you do where you are being so mindful and you're using all of your senses can be a great way of grounding.
amazing. Nimi, thank you so much. Do you have any final words for our viewers?
I would just say that my advice would be just tune inwards. All the answers are within you, okay? All the guidance that you ever need and all the answers that you are seeking externally are within you. You just need to connect to your intuition.
I love that. Thank you. You've shared so much advice and guidance for our listeners and viewers. Thank you so much. This has been so interesting, and I'm so grateful to have you here. Thank you so much. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.